Successfully implementing programs to support the community inclusion of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities is a challenging task, especially in our country where we have individuals who provide supports typically being fairly poorly paid and having few benefits. Oftentimes, very well-intentioned programs don't get implemented effectively, or even if they are effective, it's difficult to sustain them. So the purpose of this study was to try to identify the critical factors that support program implementation with high fidelity and the sustainability of effective programs over time. This study was conducted in several phases. It started out with a systematic review of the literature, progressed to a series of technical expert panels to get feedback from experts in the field, and finally culminated with our conducting a series of participatory planning and decision-making groups. These are groups very similar to focus groups. However, there's one addition to the group, and that involves individuals rating the importance of various aspects of the construct under consideration. What we learned from these groups, which were conducted primarily with program administrators and frontline supervisors, was that there were a number of different factors at the DSP or direct support professional level, at the agency or organizational level, and at the county, state, and federal level that either supported or served as barriers to the effective implementation and sustainability of programs. At the level of direct support professionals, what we found was that there were 6 different factors which our stakeholders indicated contributed to the effective implementation of programs and their sustainability. Number 1, building a coordinated, highly cohesive team. Most of our frontline supervisors indicated that without that cohesiveness in the team implementing the program, it had little probability of success. Secondly, delivering services and having an agency that delivered services using person-centered thinking, so that services are delivered and supports are delivered in a person-centered manner. A third piece had to do with the training that direct support professionals and frontline supervisors receive from their agency or organization. Our stakeholders were clear that this training needed to be very much targeted toward the specific individuals who were trainees. It needed to be active-based. In other words, it needed to provide people with an opportunity to use the skills that they were learning about, and it needed to be something which engaged people over a significant length of time. The last 2 pieces, which were considered critical at the DSP level, had to do with ensuring that DSPs have ongoing high levels of interactions with the persons with disabilities who are the recipients of home and community-based services. One of the things our own research has found over the years is that oftentimes when we observe the interactions between persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities and those persons who are supposed to be providing them support, there is very little interaction, with the average level being anywhere from 17 to 21% of the time we observed those direct support professionals actually interacting with the people they are intended to serve. The last piece that we found was extremely important, had to do with the organization's support of their direct support professionals, really looking at the direct support professional as somebody who had a career path, somebody who needed support, mentoring over an extended period of time if we expected a program to be implemented with high fidelity and to be sustainable for the near future. The second domain or broad level that we looked at were organizational or agency factors and the impact that they had on program sustainability and implementation. One of the things that we found was extremely important, as indicated by stakeholders, was that frontline supervisors, direct support professionals, and administrators had a high level of trust in each other. One of the things that stakeholders frequently commented on is how critical that level of trust was, that when new programs are implemented, DSPs and frontline supervisors, have the trust of administrators that they will actually implement the program effectively. Other factors that we found were important at the organizational level were program administrators really laying out clear expectations among their supervisors and direct support persons as to exactly the behaviors and responsibilities that they were going to be adding to their jobs, responsibilities, in implementation of that program, and really spending the time to talk through what those additional responsibilities might be, as well as providing them with reasons why they were asking them to change some of their behaviors and actions. The last two factors that we found that were important at the organizational level was for the organization to provide a high quality orientation whenever new programming was being instituted, to make sure that at all levels within the organizations, people understood why it was being done and how it should be done. The final factor had to do with making sure that those programs really coordinated well or meshed well with the organization's mission and vision. Especially at the administrative level, we heard time and time again from our stakeholders that ensuring that there was a goodness of fit between the program and the mission and vision of the organization was critical. At the last level, or the last domain that we looked at, which focused on county, state, and federal organizational policies that either supported or served as barriers to program implementation, we found that, as we would expect, that having adequate resources to implement new and innovative programs was viewed as critical, and that there needed to be flexibility in rules and regulations so that when agencies and organizations had new innovative ideas as to how to better provide services and supports, that the rules could be flexible enough so that those supports could be provided in the manner intended. What we found overall in this project is that there are a lot of things that we can do to enhance the fidelity with which innovative programs designed to support the community inclusion of people with disabilities are implemented and their sustainability. As a product of this project, we took this information that we had developed through these three phases and combined it and developed and field tested a organizational readiness form or organizational readiness survey that organizations can use to really take a look at whether they have in place those critical factors that were identified in the research to support the effective implementation and sustainability of the programs that they desire to implement. I think the real implications for this study was that we need to take it to the next step. Right now we have input from stakeholders indicating what they believe is necessary for programs to be effectively implemented. What we now need to do as the next step is to really take those factors into the field and take a look at those programs that have been successfully implemented and sustained and those programs that have struggled and see whether our stakeholder ideas really hold water.